This series, also the Making to Selling series, we're running webinars once a month. So we do have an archive of our old webinars, and then we will also be having one next month on August 18th, 1 p.m. It's a Thursday, same time slot, but we do record everything. So if you miss something, we share the recording out at the end. And I mentioned this earlier, but the format today, we're going to have hear from Khai for about 20 to 30 minutes. Give us a short presentation, and then we're going to transition into that Q&A, and we'll be hearing from you. So on that note, I see a few more people coming in. Once again, thank you for coming. If you have a website or something that you want us to take a look at, please pop it in the chat so we know who we're talking to. I am actually going to pop in the MINIALLEY project so you guys can take a look at this before we get started. And Khai, you are on your third project like this?
Yes, I just finished the third one, I think 2 months ago. Yep.
Wow. It's very exciting. Yeah, Khai has been a member since 2019, put our lasers to work for a few months when this project blew up. And it's really great to see that this has been so successful. We even had some celebrities interested in your work. Neil Patrick Harris featured MINIALLEY on his Instagram, which is awesome. But with this, Khai, I am going to introduce you since we're almost at 1:05. Just to cover the topics again that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Khai's product development, why he chose crowdfunding, the strategy that he used to approach it, and really talk about how he's been able to repeat this strategy over and over again. This wasn't just a one-time success. This is something that he's been able to use as a marketing driver for his product. So these are the things we're going to be covering today. And on that, I'm going to introduce Khai. Khai is the founder of Techarge LLC. He led the startup company designing and developing MINIALLEY, booknook bookshelf insert series, which raised over $700,000 through various crowdfunding campaigns. Has a degree in mechanical engineering and electrical engineering, as a product designer and entrepreneur. Passionate about creating new products that impact people's lives. So with that, I would love to hear a little bit about you. Also, how you got started specifically with MINIALLEY.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Anna. So yeah, if you guys are not familiar with MINIALLEY, so it's a trademark brand name that we make bookshelf insert, also called booknook. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of our product. So this is the Japanese, actually the very first design that we have. A Japanese, what we do with it, you would sit them on the bookshelf, it's tucked between book, and you see it have a mirror in there, create an illusion. So it looks really cool. It's sort of like a diorama on your shelf. I have a couple more I'll show you, and I'll go straight to the talk. So this is another one. This is the Harry Potter inspired. So it's called the Wizard MINIALLEY. And the latest one, I think that's the most successful one that I have so far. This is the Cyberpunk Alley. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go straight to share the story. So where this all started and how's it going. So we actually ran 3 different Kickstarter campaigns. Well, one of them, the very first one, is the Wizard MINIALLEY I just showed you earlier, the Harry Potter inspired, that raised roughly about $300,000. The next one raised about $150,000, and the last one, the Cyberpunk I just showed you, also raised about $250,000. So roughly you see 700, but that's just Kickstarter alone. After sale, you also collect more money for selling add-on and stuff. So there's more, sort of a lot of opportunity to raise funding to your product here. So let's take a step back where this all started. So my background, I'm a mechanical engineer and electrical engineer. I always love to make things, build things. It's all started as a hobby, right? And when I start a hobby, I have a bunch of different idea. I love to build stuff. I have a lot of idea to fix problem, how to improve life and stuff. And I quickly realized, okay, make an idea first. Now, how do you develop a product? You have an idea, now you got to develop a prototype. And when I get to the prototype phase, I quickly realize how expensive it will get. Right, everything that you want to make, you need tool, you need equipment, 3D printing, laser cutting machine, depend on what product you want, right? If you need a special casing, make out plastic, you go with 3D printing. Make out wood, you need to go with wood making, or make out metal, you need machinery equipment, and it get expensive really, really quick. Yeah, so I will start struggling, or because every time I want to make something, and like, I have to figure out, how to buy all these equipment, and even after I buy them, I gotta figure out how to learn how to use them. It was a slow process until I found NextFab in 2019. Uh, it was amazing. I took a tour at NextFab and I signed up right away. I'm like, oh my God, this is the place for me. NextFab providing so much service. They have so many equipment. They have all the 3D printing you can think of, all the laser machine. If you want to do woodworking, they have on all sort of woodworking equipment, saw, drill, whatever, CNC machine, even metal, right? Everything you can think of. If you need to build electronic component, they have electronic section. You need to do some printing, they have equipment. So that's why next step was so amazing for me. That actually what take me to the next level, right? So I joined NextFab early 2019. By the end of 2019, I launched my first product line, and I've been launching 3 different campaigns since then. So when I first started in NextFab, I started building a lot of different product. I didn't start with the MINIALLEY. So some of these products are really cool, but I started selling them on Etsy. Not doing very well because I'm a new seller. It's hard I don't know how to advertise. I don't know how to marketing these items. And near the end of 2019, I made this Japan MINIALLEY. Okay, so I it looked pretty cool, and I put it on Etsy. I only have about 5 sale, and one day I got lucky, so I post on Reddit, and the post went viral, and all of a sudden I have people run to my Etsy store and try to buy this item. At the time, I only have 20 in stock. It was sold out in literally a minute after the posts are going viral. So now I say, okay, I ran out of stock, but I'm gonna start taking pre-order on Etsy, sort of. So on Etsy, you can select how long it's gonna take you to ship the item. So instead of ship right away, I say, okay, I'm gonna take a pre-order for a week, and it sold out instantly the next minute. And I keep increasing, keep taking pre-order, and at some point that Etsy max out, they say, I don't know, I forgot what is it. I think 10 weeks. You have to ship your item after 10 weeks. So now I still have people interest to buy, but I cannot take pre-order anymore because Etsy wouldn't let me ship the item anytime further than 10 weeks. So I have to come try to figure out a way to taking pre-order. At the time, I didn't have my own website because I was very new to this. So I I think, okay, how about, I heard about Kickstarter. I never tried them before. I saw the couple of campaign. Well, how about that? So I went to Kickstarter. I create a campaign. I try to sell my Japan design, and it will quickly reject it. They say, okay, if you have a product already on the market, you cannot launch a campaign on Kickstarter. It has to be something brand new. So within a month, I put together a lot of work and tried to came up with a new design. And that the second design that we came up with, either the Wiz and MINIALLEY, right? So it Harry Potter inspired, and the reason that I went with that design actually because a lot of people are sort of requesting it on Reddit, right? So you sort of, the first point here I'm trying to point out here, you want to create a product that people want. You can't just go and create something random. Have to be something that someone wants to buy it first. So that's why we do it. So you got to do your marketing research. So the way we did it, we just review all the comments, see what the most people are feedback is, what they like the most, and we select the design, we went with it. So a month passed, we create that, and we went back to Kickstarter, and we tried to launch the product. We got approval to launch, and I went back to Reddit and I posted again. And it's the second design. I have a prototype, and it went viral again. So as soon as it went viral, so at that time we didn't launch the product yet, right? We just try to get people to interest, to test out the market, to see, how many people would like to buy it. As soon as it went viral, we start collecting people email. We post out a landing page. So at that point, I use Mailchimp service, so you can create a landing page for free using Mailchimp, and people can come in. They say, oh, they like this product. They give you an email, and you can collect that. And that's extremely important to have an email list. And I will talk to you why. So right before we launch, we already have an email list of 2,000 people that who interested in the product. So we launched with that, and the project did pretty well. Uh, and we did make some mistake after the launch. So on the first day, we make, I think, like $40,000, and it started dying out because all the people interest already bought it, and now no one else coming to my page to buy the product, and we're just sitting at my, oh, how come no one coming anymore, right? And eventually, some of the marketing agencies reach out to us, say, hey, you have a really cool product, and we realize you're not even running any advertisement on it. You want to work with us? And at first we were hesitate, because we never, this is my first time, I never used it before. But eventually I decided to go with them, and that was the best decision ever, right? So near the end of the campaign, we started working with them, and we raised another $100,000. Um, so that was the lesson learned, and I will show you real quick what the lesson here. So this is the funding chart of when we launched the Visa MINIALLEY. Like I say, all the funding came in. Here you see on the first day, we raised, I think, almost $50,000 just from the email list, 2,000. And after that, the list of people just dying out, and we almost collect nothing until here. That's when we start running advertisement on our campaign, and we collect a lot more money. I think 150 more after that. Okay, so that's an example of a good campaign with a good product, but not a really good strategy in marketing, right? It's our first one. If we start running marketing right here, imagine we would have raised a lot more than just this money, right? We're missing out a lot of the time here to raise money. Okay, so I'm gonna show you. This is the latest one that we ran, the Cyberpunk MINIALLEY. Okay, so we have an email list. On the first day, we raised $35,000. Um, so you notice it last money in the first one. So I'll talk more about it later, but because the product been out for a while, so we have a lot of competitors coming in now. So even with that, I would say a successful girl. At first, when we launched the Visa MINIALLEY, we was the first one making this type of item. But now there's like hundreds of people out there trying to copy what we do. So raising that much on the first day is still really impressive. And right after that, we're running advertise along the way. And what you don't know that along the way, here's I think a lot of the funding, 30% of the funding actually coming from Kickstarter feature. So if your project do very well, you get featured on their front page, and that's how people get to it. So just imagine, if on Kickstarter, there's like hundreds and hundreds of product launch every day. If someone just go on Kickstarter, right, they go on the first page, and if then most likely they're not going to go to the second page. So if your project not on your first page, most likely no one going to click on your project. So how do you get on the first page, right? To get featured, right? To do that, you need to do very well on the first day too. So the three thing that I'm gonna, from what I was just saying earlier, so the three most important thing to launch a Kickstarter, to get funding, you gotta understand you need an email list, advertisement, and get your project feature. Uh, and to get your project feature, you need to get the email list. So email list is very, very important, right? So a lot of people who they come to Kickstarter or crowdfunding, they see this project and they think it's like magic, like, oh, I'm gonna just build this product and people would show up and buy it. The reality is no, if you don't advertise, you don't have an email list, no one's gonna know about your project, right? I've seen a bunch of really cool projects on Kickstarter that have zero funding because no one know about it, right? So super important before you launch, you have that email list. We have 2,000 people on our email list before we launch. But how do you generate email list, right? Another way, like you can do the way we did, we post on social platform, get people to interest, or you can just run advertisement too, right? You can run it before you launch, a month before you launch, running advertisement, have people come in, look at your, just so a quick landing page, look at your product, and if they're interested, put down their email. And after that, when you do very well on your first day, you will get featured. But we don't know exactly the formula how Kickstarter, Indiegogo pick that campaign to be featured. But a couple things that we can base on that, if it meet their funding goal on the first day. So you sort of want to meet your funding goal on the first day, right? And also you have to be on training. You have to get a lot of people coming on your first day. So how do you meet your minimum, meet your goal on your first day? That's important to you. When you launch a product, let's say you have a real goal. Hey, I want to raise $300,000, right? But don't put the $300,000 on your Kickstarter goal because it's very hard to get there. You want to put the minimum amount of money that you need to create your product, right? Let's say you want to raise $300,000, but you only need 20,000 to get a start. When you get 20,000, you can start and just put 20,000. Don't put any more than that because you want your page to show that you reached your goal as early as possible. Because once you reach that goal early, people come in with confidence. Your customer come in and say, "Oh, this guy already reached their funding goal, and look how many people we back them." So they would try to back you because they know that the project will guaranteed to be success because you raise your money. So the next thing I want to talk about, I guess, so you have the email list, you're going to run advertisement, you say, okay, I'm going to try to do those two things and to get to my project feature. But next you have to say, how can I showcase my products, right? Assuming you have a good product, then how do you showcase it? So the most impactful way for you to show your product is through video, the most impactful way. So even if you should focus 90% of all of your time on making a good video for your assets, right? Because that's where people look at. The first thing they go to your page. Most of the video, you don't want it too long, or you don't want it too short, right? If it's too long, people just lose interest. If you want it too short, then you don't have enough time to build interest because you try to sell a product that not even on the market yet. And you try to promise them, hey, it will become available if you give me your money. So you want something very good, very compelling, enough to get their interest, but enough to show them that they can trust you. This is going to be a really good product. So focus on that, about 2-3 minute long video. And in your video, the first 30 seconds, you need to get people excited because most people, they after 30 seconds, they would just stop watching, right? If you can't keep them for the first 30 seconds, then you already lost out on that backer. Okay, so talk a lot. So I'm going to take a little bit step back. So a lot of people say, oh, well, it's crowdfunding for me. Why should I go crowdfunding, right? So I will share my story. Why did I start with for me, I have the product, I know how to make it, but I make them all in time. You know, if I go to retail or I can't make that many that fast to sell out. So for me, I go with crowdfunding because it helped me to take pre-order. But just look at some of the money here to show straight on Kickstarter, right? So Kickstarter have raised $6 billion funding alone. So you know it's a huge market, right? And 40% of the project that launched in Kickstarter are successful. I mean, that's a very good number, in my opinion, right? And one of the top category in Kickstarter are gaming, designing, technology. So I think most of us here probably gonna be in the design technology area. So see, we are, you know, in the top three, right? So I think that's a very good chance that you can raise your money. And why you go with crowdfunding instead of just go to retail, right? A lot of, you know, because taking a product to retail is very challenging, right? You got to go through manufacturing. You got to figure out how to do fulfillment. You know, if you can't figure that out, going to retail, you most likely will lose money. So Kickstarter is sort of like a playground, a test ground for you, right? You have people trust in you, give you money, and they give you tap. They say, okay, I believe you, I give you this money, and you have, you know, up to 6 months or sometime like that to try to sort it out, try to go manufacturing, try to sell them. So you sort of get all of that trust from them. You have the time to build your product, and you sort of have an idea how demanding is your product. Um, Okay, so next, so when should you start a Kickstarter crowdfunding? On my recommendation would start 6 months before production. You don't want to do way too long. If you don't want to launch it way too early, right? If you say I need a year to make my product and you launch it now, that's way too early. Because why? Because within a year, there's so many things can happen, right? Especially with inflation going on right now, your supply can go up 20-30% just within a year. So then if say you collect money right now to build your product, and half a year from now, it costs you a lot more to make, and you're gonna be end up losing money. Or if it's gonna take you so long to build it, maybe then you haven't figured out manufacturing then, right? Then if with that you cannot price your product correctly. Um, so pricing your product, it's touch a little bit about. I think not a lot of people when they do crowdfunding talk about this, and I think it's very critical. So I'm gonna go through it with you just so you have a lot more understanding. So how to price your product correctly. Because if you don't, you might end up actually losing money when you are launching a campaign like this. So, for example, let's say you set your product price for $100. Um, if say if your product costs you about 30% right of that, so $30, uh, and you need to set out some money to run advertisement. Like I mentioned earlier, how important is it to run advertisement? Usually campaign take about 25 to 30% to run advertising. So $30 here. And you don't forget, you know, Kickstarter will take a cut, right? And you got to pay for processing fee about 8%. And after that, you need to think set out some money to do pledge management. So Kickstarter is not a store, so they don't have a way for you to manage the design them and ship them later. So you sort of have to go through another third-party service to organize a lot of these back. When we first launched, we didn't know, right? And we later we realized, oh man, we have to pay another third party to do that. And after that, you know, that's just to manage your order, right? Like who ordered what the address is, what do they want. Now you got to worry about shipping. Okay, how do I ship this? What service I'm gonna use? So that's more fee to come. So that's just some rough item that we think important. And here, you know, after all that, you sell your product for $100. After all the cost, you only make $30. I mean, that's pretty good in my opinion. But this you gotta remember, this is profit before tax, so you gotta pay tax afterward. Um, so I have sort of give you an idea of the profit in the margin here. So let's say you say, okay, 100 is too expensive for my product, right? I need to lower it so that I can get more people to buy, and that's that's important too. You need to know your market. Of course, you lower the price, you get more people to buy. So here, for example, we lower it to $80, and we lower our profit by $10 per unit. I think that's pretty good. If you lower it and you believe you can sell more, then it would increase your profit at the end. But you got to be careful though. You don't want to make your margin too small, because, for an example, let's say you raise your money, and a couple of months after you raise your money, you start going to manufacture, right? Like I say, inflation, your costs go up by $5. The manufacturer came back and say, hey, we can't do this, we thought we can do it, but now it's going to cost us $5 more per unit to make these items, right? So now you're all of a sudden your cost of goods go up. Or when you run your project, uh, not a lot of people were interested in buying, so you got to increase your cost in advertisement. So a lot of that, in here in this example, you end up losing $5, right? And I have seen a lot of campaign that fail. If you actually go to mostly funded campaign on Kickstarter, just look at a bunch of $1 million funded project. You say, man, they got $1 million, right? They are set good. But if you actually go to their update and comment, you're gonna see a lot of update. A lot of these projects actually fail because they didn't account for their costs correctly. They end up at the end they losing money to making these items, so they end up to cancel the project, refund as much as they can. Most of them they just you know ran out of money and left, and that's is very bad, right? Because now you take $1 million from people and you can't provide a product. So uh, people know your name, because when you launch a project, it's all about trust. You gotta share your name, share your company, and now they know who you are. They're like, oh my god, this guy already tricked me once. No way I will give this guy money again. And now you turn, thousands of your backer from people supporting you turn to people who gonna hunt you down. They go track you down. They're gonna try to get the money back, and they're gonna follow you everywhere. And like, this guy is a scam, right? So be very careful when you're pricing your product. Make sure you have enough margin to cover the inflation, cover the raise of cost, thing like that. And once again, why I say don't launch a product before 6 months, because if you when you have 6 months, that means that you already talking to your manufacturer, right? Or if you develop a product, you manufacture themselves like we do, we manufacture themselves, so we know exactly what the price is going to take. But but a lot of people, they're gonna probably manufacture in China, right? So you need to talk to them. You gotta lock down the manufacturer price first, the cost of goods first, before you go launch a product. um yep, I think uh um yeah. Anna, do you know how much time do I have left for?
Hey, that was perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was an extremely comprehensive view of, what made your project successful. We did have some specific questions come in based on your presentation. Um, so we'll start with the first one here. What is the return on advertising spend before the campaign? How have you spent advertising or spent marketing for crowd build campaign before launch, and then the crowdfunding campaign? So yeah, I guess when did you spend your money, and what was the return on it? I think you mentioned you didn't spend it before the launch date.
Yeah.
Correct?
And just because we're lucky, a lot of people have to spend. For us, we're lucky because our product went viral at the beginning, so I already have an email list. But typically our return on ad spend, you probably would go for 3 to 4, which means if you spend $1, you expect $3 $4 back. So it's hard to calculate that money for before campaign, right? Because you're not really selling anything yet, right? So um, we sort of it's an estimate, but during our campaign, our return of ad spend were roughly around 4. Uh, that's a little bit high, to be honest. Most people want to go with 3, which means for every $1, they get the $3 return, and you have to account it to your advertisement too, right? So that's a good question, because not a lot of people who launch a campaign know that when we start talking to advertising company, right? They say, okay, let's just say for return of ad spend for 3, right? So $1 you get $3 back, which means you spend 30% of your the cost already go to advertisement. And keep in mind, these advertising company, they want 15% cut. So that 30% and 15% is 45% to your cost already. So you need to account for that, right? If your pricing is not prepared for that kind of cost, then you need to increase your ROS, right? So you might want to go with 4 or 5. And of course, when you do that, you get less funding, but that's the thing you gotta deal with, right? You get less funding, but you're gonna make profit at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And your spreadsheet, no matter how much you raise $1 million or you raise $20,000. At the end of the day, I think the most important thing is that you want to make profit, right? You don't want to raise $1 million and you end up not making any profit, actually losing money. Then what's the point, right? That's the whole point of us doing the business here. We try to make profit. So I think that's why pricing your product very important to me. You need, before you launch your product, you need to sit down and make sure that you make profit, because that's the only thing motivate you to continue moving. But if you start making products, sending it to 1,000 customers, and you look in your bank, you see $0, I don't think you want to continue doing that.
No. Yeah, it makes sense. It starts with the planning at the beginning, knowing your numbers. We have a couple more questions. I'm going to answer them out of order. I'm just saying that to everyone here. One specifically about how do you gauge your Kickstarter funding when you initially set it up? I think this plays into that question you just answered. How do you determine what that first funding goal is?
Yeah, so the minimum funding goal, right? So that depend on, you need to depend on if you make your product in-house, or do you go to a third party to make your product, right? So let's say you're gonna make your product in China, you're probably gonna go to Alibaba and try to find a manufacturer. So you need to sit down and talk to them, show them the product, show them the design, the question, and they have to give you a good quote first. So based on that, you know how much it costs for you to make your product. And like say, go back to your pricing and your spreadsheet, right? You say, let's just say, each if usually when you talk to the manufacturer, they have a minimum quantity they want. You say, okay, I'm not gonna make your product unless you order 1,000 items. So, but just for example, right, it's gonna cost you $30 per item to make, and you need to order 1,000. So right there, 30,000 would be your minimum to start, right? If because if you cannot raise 30,000, then the manufacturer wouldn't even work with you to begin with. So I think that's a good place to start talking to your manufacturer, figure out the total cost and the minimum quantity, right? And after that, and you add up, and you need the minimum cost to start launching your product. But yeah, like that's the minimum goal, right? Of course, you want to raise more than that, but that's where you want to start.
From your perspective, where you are actually controlling the manufacturing in-house, how do you determine your minimum? Is it based on past experience or material?
Yes. So like say, we manufacture everything in-house, so we were able to control that. But a lot of things that we don't have control at first is supply, right? We gotta buy material. um so that's something that the way we approach that. At first, when we were buying material in the US, and it was super expensive. And later on, we went to buy from Alibaba, that lowered our cost a lot. And for manufacturing, yes, we control that. We know exactly how much we do. 'Cause we make everything in house, so we have equipment. We know exactly how much it costs, how long it takes. We got people assembly these, so we know the labor cost. Uh, but then going back to, if we don't make it right, then you gotta work with your manufacturer. You gotta talk to them too. They want to give you a quote, or they gotta stay with that, right? And they sign a contract, they're gonna stay with that. So you make sure that you find a trustworthy one, right? Someone reliable, and a big one, right? So even like you mentioned Alibaba, I think it's a good place to start. A lot of these manufacturers, and they have rating, they have review. You can know how much revenue they make. So check the rating, check the review, make sure that you're dealing with a trustworthy one, and make sure you sign agreement before you start. So that you get that price locking down. And you can take the next step. If you have a big project, you might even want to travel there just to go and take a quick tour with them. So just so you have a better control of manufacturing.
That makes sense. Thank you. A few more questions about the Kickstarter campaign. Who did you work with for advertising your Kickstarter campaign? If you're
Yes.
feel okay sharing that.
Yeah, sure. So we work, the first one we worked with BackerKit, and the second one we worked with the second thing we work with Jello, JELLOP. So the way that we find these marketing campaign, we just go to some of the most funded campaign, and usually if you scroll to the end, they're gonna have a banner at the end say that who did they use for promoting, because that's the requirement when you work with the advertising company. They say you gotta put the banner in there in a way so they know that you're working with them the way you advertise too. So it's interesting. A lot of these campaigns with these company, they don't want to work with you until you prove that your product have potential. So usually they don't work with you until if you meet your funding goal the first day. If you raise a good certain amount of fund that first day, then that's when they start working, because they don't want to waste their time on some product that they don't think would raise good money, because the way you pay them is that you pay commission, and they only earn money if someone buy your product. So it's very important too that the email list again, right? You need to have a good email list. You need to raise a lot of funding on your first day. Your first day, you on yourself, no one helping you on your first day. So you need to make sure you raise significant amount of funding. After that, you can go and you talk to the marketing company, say, hey, my project have a lot of potential. I raised this much money. Would you work with me? And if you do well on your first day, of course, they will say yes, and they will work with you, and then you can discuss about your return of ad spend, how much you want to spend. You're gonna sort of negotiate with them, right? Of course, they're gonna keep driving. They want you to spend as much money as possible on marketing. So you got to be careful too. They're gonna start with, oh, I want to return of ad spend. They say, oh, you probably want to go with 2 or 3. So that's very low, which means you pay $1, you only get $2. So you're gonna spend a lot of money. So you got to be careful, So when we talk to them, we sort of push back a lot. We say, oh, no, that's way too low. We want to do 4 or 5. So just so that we want to make sure at the end of the day we make profit too. Yep.
Yeah, so it's building that credibility. I think that's good to call out that you're not working with someone on day 1. You're working with someone on day 2 or 3.
Yeah. So the first campaign, like, we didn't work with anyone on day 1. We didn't even know about marketing, to be honest. We were first started, and they actually reached out to us because they saw how successful we are. But if you go to these marketing company, right, you want to talk to them, they're gonna make you fill out a form, and they're gonna ask you how much have you funded already. If you say, oh, on this project for like 5 days and I only raised like $100, they're probably just gonna tell you, no, we can't help you here, right? So
Yeah, yeah. Well, we have a question that is related to this. Any suggestions on how to get people to see your Reddit posts? I know this was a big driver for your email list. So how did you find the right place to post it? The wording? Was there thought behind it initially?
um, I think that's tricky. Posting on social, especially Reddit. So people hate it when you try to sell stuff to them, right? Even you make cool thing. They hate it when you want to advertise to them. So you gotta be very careful when you post, right? We make some mistake early on and we post and we go buy it. When we post our landing page, our store page, and people sort of throw back, man, this guy tries to sell me stuff. You gotta be careful too when you post stuff on it, and you gotta be first. It has to be related to what you make, right? So everyone gonna be different. For my product, different, right? So for example, when I make like the cyberpunk, right? I have to find a Reddit that related to my product. I went to cyberpunk and I posted and but you cannot go post it randomly on spamming it randomly because you will get banned really quick or get your post removed. So you gotta be careful. You sort of want to show some interest to find the Reddit page that's similar to your item to post it and just be genuine. Just say, hey, you want to showcase my product? Show this here. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't post any link to sell your item unless anyone specifically asking for it. Um, uh, the best to do it is that if someone actually find your item themselves and post a link about your product to other people, I think that's the best. But it's hard, you know. We still learning. For us, we would say we get lucky to with our first one. You know, we just share it and it just went viral. Because our product at the time were very unique, very interesting. Um, if I have to do it again at this environment, I don't think I can get it to go at viral at that much anymore because it's not at interesting anymore because so many competitors already came out and make things similar to us. So it's a well-known product. Um, so for us it worked, but I wouldn't say that you should use Reddit, right? I think that's a way to marketing, but not the only way. Most of the campaign they advertise for their product just go through Facebook, right? Just you just gotta pay your advertisement, have people pay and go to your landing page and pay for it. Yeah, and there's a couple of strategies to get people to go to your ad and get a better email list too. Some of them, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but some of the strategy is called a funnel list. So you can ask people to, you show your ad, and when they go to your landing page, they sign up their name. And after that, you say, hey, if you put down a deposit of like $1, $5, something like that, you're going to get this much discount. So it's sort of like, so you can screen out, you know, your customer to like people who are willing to put down a couple of dollars to make a deposit, more willing to buy your product later on. So then you would sort of put them into special email list when you would focus and target this group, right? So they sort of sign up to be on your VIP list, and you sort of try to work more and, you know, email this list more, you know, make sure this list would be the one that get your email first. You know, when you launch a product, you want to let them know first about it, you know, sort of thing like that. Yeah, sorry, I didn't really answer Reddit, but yeah, but I think that one you approached for a pre-campaign email advertisement.
Yeah, and I will just add in here that we've interviewed Johniments creator. If you're familiar with her product, they're little ornaments that are like have hyper local interest. And I know the way she gauges interest for new ornaments is she'll find a Facebook group that is people who love going to like this vacation destination or the type of food that she's posting, and she'll post it and just see like, hey, is this something that people would like? So I know this is a strategy that other people use, finding that right niche group, especially if you have a niche type product. I think
Yes.
this one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Facebook have a lot of group like that. Yeah, I think you want to find that too. Depending on your product, you want to find a niche, right? The group, and that's a really good point here. A lot of Facebook group, you want to just go in there to post a couple there. Uh, yeah, other than Reddit, right? You have something very unique. You gotta find the subreddit that only interested in your product and just post there. Just share a picture, share image of it. Don't try to sell anything. Just share it and see if they like it. And if when they like it, then most likely they're going to ask you, "Hey, where do you get it? How can I get this one?" And that's when you maybe reach out to them. Hey, you can sign up here, or or you can go here to buy. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. We had a few more questions come in. So the first one is, so the Kickstarter money that people put up front, is I guess the benefit is the product on Kickstarter. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, can you repeat the question?
Um, so people put their money up front who want your product. Is that their benefit? So people who put the money in, will they be receiving a MINIALLEY plus something else?
Yes. So that essentially is, they put the money, and you sort of say you promise that you will send them a reward product to them. Even though a lot of Kickstarter, of course, it's not guaranteed, right? Not like you pay the money and you guarantee to get the product, just like a retail store. It's sort of like a promise, right? So you need to have a lot of trust in you, right? They're gonna give you this money and you're gonna promise them give the product. So you gotta be careful too. You don't want to abuse that trust, right? So you could for us, we really treat it like a store, right? We don't treat it like a crowdfunding campaign. Like it's not just an empty promise. For us, if they pay us, we're gonna provide a product. We treat it like a store. A lot of other creator treat it like a way off. Hey, people give me the money, they have trust in me, and I'm gonna try my best to do it. If I can't do it, then too bad for them. It doesn't work that way, because one, you cannot fulfill your promise. You cannot give your product to the to the backer. It have a lot of, even though you're not legally required to give them back the money, but it have a lot of flashback on you, right? Like people would hunt you down, they would never trust you again. Yeah, good luck try to go and build another product. And that's what make us successful coming back. So this is our third year, because every year we fulfill our promise. We make the product, we send it to them, and we keep good quality, good customer service. And that's why that help us keep launching the campaign. And another thing interesting, that actually about 20% of people who back us actually are returning customers. So they like it so much on the first one, and they come back and to get more. So that's too. You want to make sure that you fulfill your product, you do a good job on it, and they will come back and buy more, because they would be the people that support you the most.
Thank you. Yeah, we had one more question about this chart that you have up here. So probably the most underestimated and fluid cost in factoring into cost of product is advertising. What percentage of your campaign as a whole have you spent on advertising before and during the services of the external marketing company? So I guess is $30 accurate for $100 product, like in your chart?
Yeah, so roughly we spend on advertisement. Actually, we didn't spend that much, to be honest. We are I don't have the exact number on top of my head, but I would spend, I think, about 20% of the whole campaign. But it's really depend on your product too. And so pre-campaign, or some of the product, the first two campaign, we didn't spend anything on pre-campaign, because we already have a strong email list. We already have people that interested in our product and returning customer. So the way we do it on the first campaign, we have an email list. The second campaign, we have people already back us on the first one. So we email out to them and we use their first email too. And we will rely a lot on social media for pre-campaign marketing. On the last one, we start spending money on pre-campaign and we didn't spend much. To be honest, we spent, I think, roughly just a couple $100 here and there. It does help, but like I say, if we have spent more, I'm sure we would raise more money. But then for us, right, a lot of our product is unique to it's handmade. So let's say we have 10,000 orders, no way we can finish making them. So we were looking for roughly to $300,000. That's where our goal. You know, we don't want a lot more than that. We don't less than that. That's why we didn't spend a lot on advertisement pre-campaign. But for you, could be different, right? If you have a different a third party or a company in China making them, then it doesn't matter, right? If you can fulfill, you can manufacture a lot more. You want to spend a lot more money pre-campaign, because the way it works is that 30% of your funding will be from your email list, right? So let's say you go, hey, I want to raise $1 million. So you want to know that 30% of that $1 million have to come out from your email list. So roughly $300,000 have to come out from your email list. And from our experience, from people who sign up in the email, only about 20% people back. So now you gotta sort of back calculate, right? So how much you want to spend the pre-campaign, right? Now you want to raise $300,000. So let's say that's gonna take you about 100 backer to raise $300,000. So you need 20%. So you need to have about I don't know 500 people on that email list to guarantee the $300,000. That's just some example calculate. And you're right. The most under calculate is advertisement. Not a lot of people talking about this fee. And I was surprised too when I do research and when I realized how expensive it gets. That's why I think we didn't raise that much. To be honest, $200-300 sound a lot, but for a lot of successful Kickstarter campaign, you look at $1 million. If we have spent a lot more money on advertisement, we probably would raise a lot more. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing to me as an entrepreneur is profit, right? I don't want to waste too much money on advertisement, even though I bring a lot more money in. But if at the end of the day, if my profit is too low, it's not worth it for me, right? If I selling an item for $100 and I spend $50 just for advertisement alone, then my profit margin can become so low that it's not worth it for me to spend time on. So a good point. You get when you work with a marketing company, you gotta be careful. You gotta understand how much you willing to spend on your advertisement, and you gotta deal with them and determine the return of ad spend that you are comfortable with, and you stick with that. Even they're gonna keep trying to push you to go lower and lower just so you raise more money, but you gotta stay firm. You gotta understand how much you're willing to spend. Don't give in. You know how much you want to spend. Stick with that number. Even you don't raise much, but at the end of it, you make profit. That's all that matters.
It's important to know your costs before you
Yeah.
start turning the faucet on.
Yeah, exactly. Like I say, if you trust me, just go on Kickstarter, go to the most funded campaign page, go to the first top page, just go to all of his campaign. I was surprised how many projects actually raise as much money and fail to fulfill because they spend way too much money on advertisement. And when the time comes for them to make the product and they don't have enough money to make. So that's very disheartening to see, see people trust them and give so much money at the end of the day they can produce and deliver the product.
Yeah, we have just 3 minutes left. I think we have time for one more question to squeeze in here, but there's a lot. One thing I'll mention for those who didn't get their questions answered in the session, Khai has his contact information on this slide. We're also going to put it out there, starting to do consultation sessions. So if you want to hear a little bit more about what you're doing and need some advice, and maybe, Kai's services could be of help, just contact him, see if there's a good fit, because he has a wealth of knowledge, as we just heard. But one more question, which I think is something that we get asked a lot. Could you use crowdfunding to, specifically to raise money for equipment to make products, or to make them more sustainable? So raising money to get a new asset, or investment in your current business.
Yes, but the way to do it, you need to develop. You don't promise them equipment, you promise them a product, right? Let's say you want to, I don't know what products you make, but let's say you want to make a phone, a pen, whatever. So yes, you're going to raise money to buy that equipment to make your item. But at the end of the day, you got to give that item to your backer, right? Because they're not interested in giving you money to buy this big equipment that meaningless for them, right? They want to help you out, but at the end of the day, they want to get the product, the money, the product back to them. So the way you structure your campaign, don't even mention that, hey, I need this money to buy this product, this equipment, that equipment. No one interested in that. They want to see your product. So that should be in your back calculation for us too, right? We the money we raise, we use it to buy a laser machine. We didn't have when we first started, we didn't have a laser cutter machine. But we don't mention that. We know how much it costs. We know what it needs for us to come to the minimum goal too. So it costs us that much money to buy a laser machine. So we account for that, and we use that at like a funding goal. Right? We want to raise this much so that we can buy that machine, and we buy supply and start making product. So we need that much, but don't mention it. You just want to showcase your product, and that's the only thing they're interested in. If they're interested in the product and they give you enough money to buy the equipment and start doing the item, yes, yeah. But that actually that's how most of the project work. They raising money to buy equipment, or if they manufacture themselves, they would buy equipment. If they deal with a third party and they buy enough money, they raise enough money so that the manufacturer would be willing to deal with them.
I think that's a great point and a good place to end. Seeing, it from the consumer side. What does the customer care about? And make sure your unit calculations are accounting for whatever costs or investment that you want to be raising during a campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Any last?
Sorry, I want to emphasize that. Yeah, so when you run a business too, you got to put on a lot of hats. Engineer hat, business hat, but at the end of the day, you're gonna put on a customer hat too. Imagine yourself as a customer. What do you want? All right, you got to think, if I go into this campaign pay, what do I actually want? What am I interested in? Right? The customer not going to be interested in how you're going to make this product. They're not going to interested in, what equipment you're going to use, what manufacturing methods, what engineering work you put into. They're not. They only care about the final product, the quality of the final product, and what cool thing can it do. So you got to focus on that too when you try to sell this item. So like I said, put on different hats, try to figure this out. Yep. Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I think that's a very good point. You gotta look in the customer perspective.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Khai. I know I want to be respectful of your time. We're just at 2:00 here, or right after 2. There are a bunch of questions we didn't get to, so I'm sorry those who are here. They're great questions. So once again, we will be including Khai's contact information in the follow-up email. I believe you're giving office hours right now to NextFab members as well. Is that true or not yet?
I don't have that set up yet. As of
Okay.
right now, I think the best is to send me an email, reach out. So most likely when you reach out to me, I will ask you, what sort of product you're making and what are you looking for, and I'll, if possible, if I think I can help you, I will schedule a 20-minute consultation for free with you, and to sit down and see where you at, and how you want to take this to the next level, and sort of providing any guidance that you need. Yep, but I think the best way right now is just email me. All right, because my schedule a little bit hectic right now. It's hard to me to set a set schedule for everyone. So just shoot me an email. Say, hey, I'm doing this, or this is what I'm working on. Or what sort of question you have, and I'll see if I can help you, and I will answer.
Wonderful. Thank you. Um, and I mentioned we recorded this, so we're going to send out the recording, and be on the lookout. That should be coming out tomorrow around noon. We'll have that up and available. And the next webinar coming up will be in a month, on August 18th. And this is going to be another technical webinar about the basics of SEO. So figuring out, again, how can people get to and find your product. So thank you again, Khai. I thought this was really wonderful. And it's great to see that your business is doing well.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yep.
Have a good one. Bye.